Hey Ryan, this is Hunter Mintz, Mizzou baseball assistant, hitting coach, and we're here, and I am here to go over your video analysis. I know you guys got this before, but it cut off probably with about 3 minutes left. So I'm going to go ahead and redo it for you and get it back to you, and hopefully you can still learn some things from this. I'll keep the other part of it the same, because that part, it was kind of a two-piece thing, and the one with the big leaguer next to you, we'll be able to keep that one. But for this first one, I'll go ahead and redo it for you. And if you got any questions, once again, please let me know. Once again, we will watch this one in full motion. Let's watch a full swing here from the start. Okay, let's press play. Okay, so let's roll through this again. Now, same things that we talked about in the other video. Just want to remind you of, because these still are the biggest pieces. The first one being this back foot, right? We want to make sure with this back foot it's pointed directly to where the camera's at now. You see how that front foot is pointed directly at me. We want that back foot pointed directly at me too, because at the point of contact, right, we want our foot and our toe to be all the way turned around. We want our heel pointing towards the sky, because that'll turn our back knee in, that'll get our back hip in, and that'll get everything that we can through the baseball from our back side. So honestly, that has to start from the stance, and it has to start with 2 feet that are pointing in the same direction, right? So that's just a simple adjustment right there, and that's an easy one to change. So the second part then is, well, let's go look at this first. The hips are in a good spot right here. You look pretty comfortable. The head's in a good spot, and the shoulders are in a good spot. So now, it's what we kind of talked about last time, but if we're going to roll through this swing here in a second, and you'll see that your hands never get back as far as you would like them to. Okay, so let me press play right here. And when you get your foot down right there, we want our hands to be a little bit further back. So when I get to this point, I don't want to see, well, let me put it this way. My elbow and my hands should be aligned. So if we look at this right here, what do we got? Well, we got a whole elbow exposed because our hands aren't back far enough. Okay, so where does that start? Well, a lot of it can start from your stance, right? And so if this is your stance right here, and we're trying to get our hands back to cover up our elbow, we need to either do a couple things. And I kind of talked about this in the other video, but you need to either stride out a little bit further, because however the length of your stride is, that will determine how far your hands go back. If my stride's really long, my hands are going to go back really far, and vice versa. So that's the first part. The second part is you can just start your hands a little bit further back, because one of the more uncomfortable things is having to incorporate a stride that's a little bit longer. Okay, so what I would suggest is, instead of starting your hands right here, I would start your hands about right there. Okay, we aren't talking too much, but I promise you, when you do it, it's going to feel like you moved your hands back about 10 feet. Because when we've done something for so long and then we make a subtle little change within our swing, it feels like an inch really feels like a foot. So it's just something that you have to get comfortable with. You have to be comfortable with the person that's telling you where to get your hands, because you want somebody to be honest with you, but you want somebody too that you trust, and that knows where you want your hands to be, because you aren't always going to have video over on the side of you. So that would be the first thing that I would say about the hands is get them back just a little bit further from the start, because as we go along, we don't ever quite get our hands back where we need to be. Okay, so there's that part. Second part then is, I would start just a little bit wider. Okay, because this distance right here with your feet, we want our feet about 1.5 times or 2 times the width in between our feet to be 1.5 to 2 times the width of our waist. And right here, you aren't quite to that point. So, and we saw you don't really stride so far. So another change I would make is get your feet just a little wider apart. Okay, Feet a little wider from the start, hands a little further back from the start. And what that'll do is it'll decrease the movement that you have, so you don't have to have a long, drawn-out stride. You can have your normal, regular stride, but you're just going from a little wider base, and your hands are a little bit further back. Okay, so those are couple things that I would work on. They're really, really simple things. All three things really that I've talked about so far with the foot, the width of your feet, and then your hands. All three things that start from the stance. So those are all very, very simple things to work on. So the next part then is your shoulder. If we go through here, what we want to make sure of is when we're attacking the ball, it's not too bad here, but we want to be cognizant of it. We don't want this shoulder to turn too far in that way. Okay, the point being is when I turn my shoulder too far in that way, when I get my foot down, my heel down, I'm in a post-stride position, every movement has an equal and opposite reaction. So a lot of the times when we get too far coiled in, the first movement is, oh, let me get it out of there. And I think you can see right here, you get that shoulder out of there real quick, and there's not as much behind it as you'd like. Okay, so that's one simple thing too. When you get your stride down, when you get your foot down, even when you're working off of a tee, because when you're working off a tee, it's tough because you want to coil in because that's where the ball is. But really, really focus on being a little bit more square with your shoulders. Okay? Pretty simple. The next part, and I want to show you where not having that back foot turned in rears its ugly head. Okay? So we talk about distance. We have to cover more distance when that back foot isn't quite where we want it to be. Okay, so look at it coming. It's still a little bit behind. It's a little bit behind. It's a little bit behind. We never quite get all the way turned over and on our toe on that back leg like we'd like to. And in all honesty, Ryan, that doesn't have anything to do with you driving your legs or anything like that. It all comes from just the stance and the startup. So it's like if we have a line of dominoes in a row and the last domino is being able to get our foot all the way turned over and our back knee turned in and our back hip all the way through. If that's the last domino, we have to start from the first domino to knock over all those other things. The first domino is getting that foot in line. Okay, so you never quite do it, and because of that, you aren't utilizing your legs like you're supposed to. So a lot of things, I know I threw a lot of things at you, probably 5 or 6 different things, and hopefully you can implement some of these. I would just try and do 1 or 2 at a time. So when you try to do all of them at a time, you're going to be in trouble because you're going to be trying to think through way too many things. So Ryan, I appreciate your time. Please let me know if you have any other questions, and I will talk to you later.